It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays, and I was torn this Wellness Wednesday between two topics. I got two requests for Wellness Wednesday this week. One was on the link between like physical health and mental health, which I have not done, and I think that's super important. But I'm going to do that next week because this week I was like humming and hawing about whether I do, exercise and emotional health or, diet and all that stuff. Or this external validation topic. And then Scout showed up, hopped up on the desk and shoved his butt right in my face. And I'm like, that's a cat for you. Cats are great at self-validation. They don't need your validation. They're like, I'm good. I'm valid. If you're awesome, you'll see that. If you don't, you suck. And so I'm like, all right, Scouty picked the topic. We'll do the exercise and the physical well-being, mental well-being thing next week. Because I personally think it's a really overlooked element of mental health. And I was pulled into that kicking and screaming, but that's not the topic this week. If you like Wellness Wednesday, low numbers, but lots and lots and lots of positive benefits for the people who watch, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. So, the thing in my life that grounds this topic this week, I have had a bizarre temporary side effect to my second Moderna shot for COVID. I am dropping words. I'll write something, or even I'm speaking, but writing is way worse. I'll write something and it looks fine and I hit send, and then afterwards I discover that I left out a complete word. It's just a brain fog thing. It's gonna take some time to get over. I'm pretty friggin' lucky that I didn't get COVID, because obviously this shit's hitting me really hard. Some people would be really embarrassed and, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Like the stuff of, millennial driven media they really play up the fail in day-to-day interactions. And I sit there going, what's the big deal? This is something everybody does. We normally kind of laugh about it. Oh, wait, I'm not millennial socialized. This is different. Millennials and Gen Z are the generation that never learned to self-validate. And it's a real problem. It's not too late though. And that's the good thing. Because back then, back in Gen X, we were all told, the world's going to end and you're going to have no jobs. No, seriously, it was a steady stream of you are fucked growing up Gen X. Like that was the marching orders from adults. And so our apathy that we're known for is actually just, we self-validate, which means we don't terribly give a fuck what other people think. Some of it's a put on, but Gen X just had to learn to sort of see the value in ourselves, because nobody was giving it to us, not in the ample quantities, the people who came after us that got a mark for everything and praised all the time. And there was all this focus on self-esteem, but it didn't really work. It created this very brittle sense of self with the inability to self-validate. Everything had to be external. And what we've been left with is a paradigm where people don't know the difference between external validation and agreement. Validation does not mean someone agrees with you. Validation does not mean somebody thinks what you did is great. Quite the opposite. True validation, really feeling validated, is recognition and acceptance of a different experience, of an experience that is not your own. You've got a really good friend. You've got somebody you can trust to have your back when you don't agree on anything, on everything. but you can accept the other person's position as a valid position that you just don't agree with, right? For example, I've been debating a lot of people about, Bill Burr's recent comments about CNN being treasonous because they helped get Trump elected. That's a paraphrase. I'm not going to get into it. And I pointed out that, well, he was in The Mandalorian, but he probably won't get shit canned. Could it be because he's a man and Gina Carano was a woman and so on and so forth? But people got really fucking pissed. And I'm like, why the fuck do people get pissed at these things? I have my views. You have your views. There's no right or wrong answer to this. Give me a counterpoint instead of just getting mad. Oh, this is a person who doesn't understand the difference between validation and agreement. Do I terribly care if Bill Burr keeps his job or not? No. Do I have a real issue with charged rhetoric in politics? Yes. Do I feel like I have to take a stand on people who are on my side politically when I think they overstep? Yes. Would I think someone was going too far if they were right wing and accuse some media organization of treason because they may or may not have backed a particular political candidate? Yeah, I would have a problem with that. Treason is a crime punishable by death. But do you have to agree with me? No. And I had some good conversations with people who were like, I see where you're coming from. I come from a different place, but I see where you're coming from. That's validation. And true validation, true external validation comes when you don't agree 100% with someone. And that is a lost art. It's real easy to validate when you agree, right? You're totally right. But imagine if you go through life where you only hear absolute agreement or silence or like brutal, withering criticism. You're not really gonna get a sense that you're accepted as a unique individual, right? Because you're not getting that, I see where you're coming from. I don't agree, but like reasonable people can disagree on this thing. Everything is this bloody fight of life and death, good versus evil. And I'm like, dear God, it just like, the reason we used to debate these pop culture things is because there could be multiple valid viewpoints. And that's been stripped away, right? Like, I'm not saying Bill Burr deserves to lose his job. I don't think Gina Carano deserved to lose her job because she lost her job for an opinion that was grafted on and inferred to what she said, not because of what she actually said. But I also recognize that Hollywood is very fickle and a lot of decisions are not based on merit. You know, the other thing I've been having lately is people trying to convince me that Sylvie from Loki is a likable or good character. I don't agree, but likability is subjective. I see where people are coming from in certain perspectives. I don't agree, but I have had people raise pretty much this. They lay down the same planks and they come to a different opinion that I did. There's no right answers to this stuff, right? But that's the problem. That's the thing. I have discussions with about this, and we can take differing positions on something and still be cool. Right? And even battle hard on certain positions and still be cool. That's where you get external validation. The people who are living in these echo chambers where everything has to be agreement or you are excommunicated. You don't ever get external validation, so you never learn to self-validate. You never learn to go, not your best day, but you know what? That's okay. They can't all be your best day, right? Real validation happens not when you get it right, but when you get it wrong. or when somebody disagrees with you, right? The hope did not match the outcome. That's when true validation externally and internally happen. And because so many people today are sheltered from that experience with the safe spaces and the affirmational education plans and everything is awesome, everyone is special because you're worth it, all this stuff. Well, what about when it's not worth it? What about when you don't want to fight that? What about when you just don't fucking care about what stupid celebrity said something stupid this week? Is anybody telling you that's okay to not give a shit this time? Or are people demanding you care to show you're a good person? Sound familiar? Social media didn't invent this. Social media did not create this. Social media is reflecting this. We saw this happening with movies like Mean Girls, with the way really intense socialization was happening with young people. That being different, that dissent was becoming less and less acceptable. They didn't make The Breakfast Club anymore, which was a movie about societal rejects in a lot of ways. You know, John Hughes had faded by the 90s. No, what did we get? Like Disney princesses and Anakin Skywalker. You could say, well, you know, Anakin's the bad guy. That refutes your whole theory. No, because, you know, kids know you're screwing with them when you're marketing a guy who, you know, killed babies by episode 2 as a good guy. Like, that doesn't exactly create a foundation for for trying to be a better person every day. That sets the message for, you know, people who went in that Anakin Skywalker route. Well, you're the main character, so you're a piece of shit, but hey, you're a piece of shit with top billing, right? And with girls, it's the princess. And what did the princess do? It's not about what the princess does. It's about what the princess is. And that wasn't actually the original point of those Disney stories that got, you know, cobbled together in an amorphous brand. But that's what the Disney princess brand ended up being. I saw these girls get stuffed into these cheap, you know, mass market cosplay dresses based on what Disney princess they looked the most like. Not what Disney princess they acted the most like. And I was like, this is bad. Bad omen. Because then it becomes all about identity and not about validating opinions and actions. And that's a real problem, because it's much easier for external forces to strip your identity from you. I mean, like, the world is one big ongoing no true Scotsman fallacy, right? You have to constantly prove your purity to stay as part of this identity group, which is why we get ridiculousness, like people saying Pete Buttigieg is not gay enough. When you're married to a man, that's gay enough, especially in Indiana. I know that's not what they mean, but you know what I'm saying, right? There's an example of validating a different viewpoint. I'm acknowledging that there is a difference between a gay identity and gay cultural points. Some people can't see themselves in that particular icon of gayness. It's why there was Jack and Will on Will and Grace, right? There's not one way to be gay. So I get that some people will see Mr. Clean-Cut Army veteran and say, that's not me, I don't see myself in him. Fine. But I'm giving those people space. I'm giving them a space to be a valid taker-upper of space. Please extend the same courtesy, because that's how it works. When you're never given that, you never learn it. When, if your parents were overly permissive or too critical, you never get that I love you, but I don't like you right now space. Or the sort of, no, we're doing this my way, but I see your point. Get you next time, right? You're not getting that give and take. So you never learn how to internally validate because nobody modeled external validation. No one taught you that skill. And it is very much a skill. And we live in a world right now where there are a bunch of people who are adults. Like, I'm not talking like 18 years old adult. I'm talking 35-year-old adults, the Princess and Anakin Skywalker generation. And I'm not blaming Anakin Skywalker. He's just an embodiment, right? If you like Anakin Skywalker, that's fine. Clone Wars Anakin Skywalker, yeah, I kind of get he's kind of cool, right? Movie Anakin Skywalker, oh Lord. Granted, a lot of people from that generation who saw the Star Wars prequels for that time were too young to know it was bad. That's what people tell me about Return of the Jedi. And I see the children under 6 factor in the Ewoks, but shut up, I love the Ewoks and I like that movie. There you go again. Not saying you're 100% wrong. I see your point. I do not agree. We could fight about Star Wars forever. I don't like fighting about Star Wars anymore because it's not fun anymore. It's zero sum. It's too high stakes. Someone is not a Nazi or a commie or whatever, or a social justice warrior, too woke or whatever because of their opinions on freaking Star Wars or Marvel or what else has Disney bought this week? Whatever Fox property of the moment. Fox hasn't been relevant in a really long time, except for the superhero stuff that's Marvel. Warner DC Comics. Your opinions of Legends of Tomorrow do not define you as a good or bad person. That's what we've lost. And this is one of these big things that therapy tells you have to self-validate. You have to self-validate. You can't be at the ransom of external validation. But it's one of these things that it never teaches you how. And the really tricky thing is it is very hard to self-teach self-validation because validation is modeled by families and peer groups, right? Now, it is possible. It's just hard. This is one of these things that, I think video games, especially RPGs, helped me out with a lot, right? In part because, and this is just my personal experience, right? Video games tend to skew more of a male perspective, the more sort of direct be hero approach, the sort of selflessness, give a little to get a lot. Not altruism, because let's face it, you're doing it for the loot, but enlightened self-interest tends to be rewarded in video games in a way that, at least for women of my generation, it really wasn't. And I don't see that with the Disney Princess generation getting any better, quite frankly. I think it actually backslid some because in Gen X in the 80s, we were able to be aberrant. It was the era of unisex. We didn't slap a whole lot of labels on androgyny and gender bending. It was just a style. It was a part of the general culture. In a way that it's those identity boxes again, and identity can be taken away from you. You're not properly X into the Phantom Zone with you. Or, what is the airspeed of an unladen swallow? I don't know. Pew! Monty Python reference. See, that absurdist comedy is all gone too, right? and they hit on comedy, you see, right? It used to be, that's not funny, I'm changing the channel. Now it's, that's not funny, you're a bad person. I mean, could you imagine if Married with Children was on the air today? Oh God, but it was the perfect show for its time because it was spoofing the ideal family sitcom, right? We had that point of reference. We weren't just taking it on its own death of the author type thing. We recognized that this was a counterbalance to shit like Growing Pains and Family Ties and even The Cosby Show. Can't invoke that anymore. That's evil. But all this at its core is a lack of an ability to not just validate self, but validate others, externally validate as well as internally validate. And it is a skill that develops with practice. So I can keep going, you know, I'm not going to just skip videos and skip posting stuff and things like that because I may make some mistakes. I don't require perfection from myself. It is valid that I'm at diminished capacity because I made an educated choice. And hey, it didn't take me only 2 days to recover from this second vaccine. It's taking me, 4 and counting. But it'll come back. That's okay. I'm still valid. My worth doesn't just evaporate because I'm having an off day. Shit, Twitch gets you over that because, if you're not feeling well, your gameplay sucks and there's nothing you can do. It's just you have off days, you have really great days, Play a From Software game on Twitch. That'll teach you internal validation. Holy shit. I mean, those games do sort of are validation builders in a way because you keep at it, you keep at it, you keep at it until you get it. That's how it works. Now, other ways for people who don't want to play really, really hard games, right, is that one of the first exercises I gave on Wellness Wednesday is keep a small book, 3 things you're proud you did that day. And they're very small things. If you're depressed and you got up and you brushed your teeth or you brushed your hair and you did even a single thing, that is an achievement. Is it an earth-shattering achievement? No, but it's a valid achievement. Was it hard? Did you want to do it? Did it take effort? Then you've earned some validity points. That's how it works. That's how self-validation works. You're not perfect. You're not going to be. That's a stupid expectation. Who gave you that? Some sort of external force that was trying to control you. I mean, that's what gaslighting does, right? But it trickles down into our opinions as well. People who need everyone to agree with them or else it's the end of the world lack self-validation. Their entire opinion of whether they're right or whether they're wrong comes from external sources. It comes from the crowd. It comes from the mob. And that's a terrible way to determine whether you're right or wrong. Popularity is no proof of quality. Just look at late 80s boy bands. Yeah, I went there. That was my generation. Damn, some shite came out of there. I'm good with the K-pop wave, man. BTS is way better than anything we had back there. Damn, hats off to BTS. Those dudes are good. If pop music's not your thing, pop music isn't your thing. But that's damn good pop music. It's good light pop. It just is. You notice I said if pop music's not your thing, fine. It doesn't have to be. That's validation, not agreement. And we should be able to do this on the simple shit. The problem is we can't. The problem is we treat things like someone's opinion of, say, the Captain Marvel movie, not the reasons for their opinion, just their opinion, whether they liked Captain Marvel or not. That somehow says something as a person. Of course it doesn't. Ditto for Rise of Skywalker. Ditto for Last Jedi. Ongoing, right? You liked WandaVision, you like Falcon and Winter Soldier. That says nothing about you as a person. And hell, there's some of us that even hold more nuanced opinions than that. And be like, there are some elements of those things I liked a lot. There were some elements I absolutely could not stand. So it's hard for me to be able to know whether I can say, overall I liked it, overall I didn't, because it was so uneven. Oh God, we don't fit in anywhere because people don't know if they agree with us or not. So they don't know if we're good people or not. You may notice, I don't terribly care what those people think. Now, you gotta be careful letting people know you don't care. Because you do need, just to keep a job and generally get along with society, you need a certain level of agreeableness. You need certain key people to like you or at least be able to stomach you, right? That's life. That's the trade-off for social society. But the bar should not be so high that it's that episode of Black Mirror where everything, like your credit rating and all that stuff is based on how many likes, like how many 5-star reviews you get from people. Like, that's the age we're living in. And people want to blame social media. But here's the switch off to validation, right? Validation doesn't exist without accountability. And there was an old joke on Saturday Night Live. Al Franken did a character called Stuart Smalley, and his whole thing was, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. You know, we called it daily affirmations back then. Now it's validations, right? If you give yourself too many passes on bad behavior, your brain knows it's lying to itself. It doesn't work. You have to own when you came up short, because owning where you came up short makes it a useful mistake. And those sorts of mistakes are really valid. They're how we learn. They're how we improve. It's not valid to crush a person based on a single mistake. That's not okay, because everybody makes them. Like, if your standard for other people is one that you yourself can't meet or frequently don't meet, you may have to reassess your standards. Similarly, if there is a huge discrepancy, not saying I won't stoop to people's level, I want to be better than other people. But if your standards for yourself are so impossibly high and you're letting other people get away with murder because it's okay when other people do it, but it's not okay when you do it, that may show a lack of internal self-validation. And that is a problem. That is holding you back. You may be being just way too tough on yourself. And you're actually getting in the way of your own achievements. Because are you achieving things because you enjoy the work? Because it's, fulfilling and valuable and feels like it has purpose? Or are you doing it to gain the approval and therefore the validation of external third parties? And it's very important that you're honest with yourself about that, because if it's the former, awesome. If you're doing it because it's important work and every day is not going to be a barrel of laughs, great. But if you're doing it to seek the external validation of third parties, that is something beyond your control. And, it's a first-class ticket to misery. So I'm curious about your questions on this. This may be something that requires a lot of unpacking. If you like this sort of content, as complex as it is, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. And seriously, I don't care if you like the various Star Wars movies. Thanks for watching.